Arthur, I think you're going to talk about... Hello, Arthur? Ah, you haven't got your headphones on. That's why you can't hear me. So we're going to kick you off. So you're going to talk about CTV. I'm assuming that's connected television?
Connected television.
Great, good. Looking forward to hearing it.
All right. Hello, Helsinki. All right, we have everything on the screen. I hope this will be both like the best presentation you'll see today and the absolute worst as well. You'll see why. I just want to go under the hood of what CTV is, and I will define what CTV is, which is basically TV advertising. It's a new big thing in the US especially, and we think it's the next big thing of UA. But we'll talk about that. I wanted to go under the hood and didn't want it like all the marketing bullshit and everything that's going on, you know, when you have those kind of presentations. So my CMO was really against that presentation. So I said, fuck it. Dancing baby. That's life goal 1, achieved. I always wanted to use that one. So yeah, CTV and performance under the hood. Can you really do performance advertising on TV? And let's start off with, yeah, you'll have all the PowerPoint transition in that one. So TV is for branding. We hear that a lot when we talk to all the app studios and everything. Like, wait, like, can you really do performance on TV and how can I measure it? And you know, it's not really for us. We are looking for a direct response, so TV is not for us, and that's exactly what we're trying to break, and that's what I'm gonna explain as of today. So first, let's start with what is CTV. So CTV stands for Connected TV. As Europeans, I don't know if some of you have flew from the US, but as Europeans, we don't know about it because when we boot up the TV, we press 1 or 6 to like start a specific channel. But in the US, they use their TV with apps. So the biggest apps, obviously, some of you know, like Netflix and everything, but they use Hulu, they use Pluto, which are absolutely massive. We can talk about the reach right after. But for example, Pluto is getting billions of ad impressions per week, and that's something that you can leverage as a marketer. So yeah, how big is CTV? It's 900K impressions per second just in the US alone. It's pretty much nothing, to be honest, in Europe. That's why we only focus on the US. And as you can see, and that's the really, really interesting part of that slide, is that TV is actually bigger than any other social network. And yeah, a lot of people will say, but nobody watches TV anymore. And it's kind of true, like especially like in the younger generation. But when people talk about CTV, usually we talk about OTT, which stands for over the top. And over the top is basically any rich video content that is consumed on a digital device. So it's not only TV, but you get the same attention when someone is like watching a rich video content like on YouTube TV, but on Crunchyroll as well. Like a lot of Gen Z and Gen Y is using like their phones or their laptops to watch like some TV shows, the new anime that's trending and everything. And so that's the kind of inventory that you can leverage. So enough with the super bullshit. Yeah, that one is overwhelming. So how data works in the CTV world, that's usually the main thing. Like how do you actually track installs? So do you have in the standard linear TV world, you had to do some big push at some specific time of the day and then measure if you had a peak in your installs? That's over with CTV. You can actually measure deterministically whether or not you actually generated an install, and you do that with the IP. IP is not a super great identifier when it comes to mobile in a general way, because when people are outside, they're on 4G, LTE, etc., and they share IPs. But when it comes to TV and connected television in a general way, that media is mostly consumed in the household. And what happens in the household is that it's connected to the Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi has a static IP, and the static IP itself will allow us to basically link every device that's in the household. So usually we don't talk much about users, but mostly households, because if we can't really differentiate whether it's the mom or the dad or the kid that actually made an install, but in the volume it doesn't really matter. Yeah, that one is terrible as well. So yeah, if we have identifiers in TV, that means that we can do anything that you do on digital building profiles, and so also being able to target those profiles. So you can do anything that you would do like on Facebook or with any like UA solution that you like to use. But the most interesting one is, especially in the UA space, and the one that we use the most, is the installed apps, and so the gamer profiles. So we can know, as we are like a DSP and we work with like partners and we have access to bid requests and all this kind of thing, we can actually create super precise profiles, household profiles, and know which apps are installed in those profiles. So we can, for example, create like a gambler profile, like by targeting people who are already using like slots games or this kind of thing. We can have like casual gamer profiles as well with the depending like if they have like those match games and everything. And you can even do re-engagement. So you can target people that are in your app, like big spenders and this kind of thing, and you can like bring them back in your app with TV. And the great thing about TV is that you get a super strong attention. So you get a super strong attention from your most valuable user, and therefore like create a lot of value in that. All right, so measurement and attribution, which is one of the most important one. Yes, PowerPoint, oh, that's so bad. Like those arrows add glitters. Like PowerPoint has a glitter pen. Don't know if you knew that, but you won't have the glitters. Never mind. So yeah, how does it work? So basically someone will watch an ad on their TV. So let's say they're watching a show on Hulu and they see an ad for your game. So what they'll do, there is no click or anything like that. We'll talk about QR codes right after. But there is mostly no click, forget about clicks. So they see the ad, and then they search on the App Store for your app, and then it's measured by both like any MMP that you would like. So we were like Vibe was one of the first CTV partner of Adjust and AppsFlyer, and so we can measure installs that were generated through TV with Adjust and AppsFlyer. So they will integrate that into your marketing mix, into your attribution model. Usually at the end of the waterfall, but that's something else that we can talk about. So yeah, so as simple as that, and the great thing about it is that you can actually measure not only the installs, but you can measure the return on ad spend, which is probably the thing that you care the most about. Yep. QR codes. So obviously, you've heard about Coinbase. You want to put QR codes in your creatives. That's fine, but that should absolutely not be seen as a click command, just as what you would have in your like interstitials or this kind of thing. This is a great way to measure engagement because like you'll still be able to track the installs that are made through the QR code, but most of the installs that you'll generate will mostly come from search. So one of the things that you have to be like worried about when you set up your campaigns is that when you launch a connected TV campaign, you'll usually have a huge boost in terms of like search attributed installs because obviously Apple is playing his own game, Google are playing their own game, and so magically you're getting tons of installs from search because you started TV, and that's what we've seen in every single ad campaign that we've done for apps. But yeah, so QR code is great, but it's not the solution. But yeah, so when it comes to performance, and that's where we get more deeply into like technicality and to show you that we can actually generate performance when it comes to TV, the fact that we have identifiers, the fact that we can measure deterministically and the installs and the events and all these kind of things, we can then have the feedback loop. So you've probably, like every salesperson of every single like UA solution probably told you about the feedback loop. So you get an install, then you are able to attribute that to like any, like for example, which show it was generated that install, like what geo, etc. And then like you use an AI that optimizes all that. We'll talk about this, but the fact that we have this allows us to have that feedback loop and have AI media buying so that like we can optimize the cost per install. So you can now know that Pluto in NYC at 6 p.m. generates you 3.21 CPI, or that NBC in Texas and like with the casual gamer audience generates you a 23% 7-day ROAS. So interesting, yeah, that transition is super long, super slow. So yeah, introducing the logistic regression. So that's like a bit like for the techies. I'm an engineer myself, so I'm always happy to talk about this. But yeah, so that's exactly what we're talking about. So what we've built at Vibe, and like you've been talked about like, those super like highly specialized models that are like, yeah, we have like that model that is very specific for like slots game, and we have optimized it over the years, and it's like very specific for you, so it's perfect. That kind of thing, that doesn't work. Like, we have built like several like performance advertising companies before that were acquired. Like, to be honest, we've tried this, doesn't work. The best advice we've ever got was actually from Romain Nicoli, who's the CTO of Querou that you maybe know of, like one of the biggest retargeting company. And we asked him like, now like in like 2020 with like all the cloud computing and everything, like what would you do to have like the most performing solution? And he said like, look, I would have probably like the dumbest like AI ever, which is the logistic regression, which is like just a big black box, let's be honest, but just have the ability to feed it just as much data as possible. And that's exactly what Google does, that's exactly what Facebook does, and that's exactly what Vibe does when it comes to optimizing your creative. We just take every single information that we have and that we can like use and leverage during the media buying, and just like feed that in real time into the logistic regression. And so that will help us like improve the performances when it comes to return on ad spend and this kind of thing. So where it was like, where TV was just like something that you could use for branding and just like buy a pre-show ad, now it's like really like digital, it's really like social media, it's really like search. You can do the exact same thing when it comes to performance. Oh, and yeah, creatives. Obviously, like TV is like the most like the channel where you'll get the best attention, and especially in Europe, we're always like, oh yeah, but like we need a good-looking creative and everything. Look, it's the US. The creatives are terrible there. Like you have like plenty of local advertisers like who like shoot their ads with iPhones. It's really different. So your ads can be bad, and you can actually like A/B test shit out of it. Like, so you could run, you all know like that ad, you all know that creative. So you can like run like 100 of those, like just like A/B testing it. And we've seen some clients like testing like tens of creatives, which obviously they don't put like $50,000 budget in each. It's probably like very cheap production, but it actually works. And you can, and again, like with the logistic regression, you can also leverage and measure and like attribute the best performances to each creative for each channel, and you can know like which creative is working best on which channel, with which like demographic and which target and everything. So you can have like a pretty complex like media plan and like setup in your campaign, just like what you would have on digital but on TV. Metrics, which is the only thing you care about, I think, of course. So this is actually like a pretty old metric, but it's probably one of my favorite. So basically, when we started with that advertiser, so we started at €18 CPI, which was super bad. Like, let's be honest, because their target was something around like 6 or 8, and so the more like we ran the ad, the more like the AI kicked in. And so you can see what you usually get with other like UA platforms. So you get a decrease in CPI, you get an increase in terms of return on ad spend, and everyone is happy. But yeah, and that's something that wasn't possible before with like standard linear TV. But now you can actually like get those kind of thing with connected TV. So yeah, let's sum it up. I think you got it. The most important thing to remember is that like TV is not only for branding. Like, if there is one thing that you need to remember is that you can actually do performance with CTV, and the reach is there, and the performances that you're looking for are there. CTV has the same targeting capabilities, so you can do the exact same thing again and leverage your audiences, your best practices that you already have on other channel. That works the same way, and PowerPoint probably has like some of the most exciting transition ever. So yeah. Enough for the atrocious PowerPoint presentation. We are Vibe, the only one TV ad platform. I'm Arthur, CEO and co-founder. We have a booth just right there. So if you want to know more about like how TV works and how you can leverage it for your user acquisition problem, I'm your guy. Jerome, here as well, is your guy.
Thank you very much. Great. Cool. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, yeah, sorry. Round of applause, round of applause. Sorry, I always forget the round of applause. So eager to get on. All good stuff. Thank you very much for that, Arthur. So does anyone have any questions for Arthur in terms of CTV? I mean, you kind of covered a little bit of this, but how how much of the cultural change is happening? Because I know that in my household,
Yeah.
I'm the only one who uses the TV. And I generally only use it to play games. I mean, that's not quite true. I do watch a lot of YouTube on it and so on and so forth. But my family are watching their stuff on their phones.
Yep.
They actually have no interest in using the big screen. Is that a normal thing? Is that a trend? I mean, is that, you know, how has TV behavior changed, and how does that affect this process?
Yeah, so the device is changing a lot. So basically, we're seeing like a trend where people are consuming rich video content, and that's exactly what I was talking about, like with OTT, on their phones, like on their tablet, on their like laptop, and everything in the bed. Like we've all done that, but it's still like the same attention. Yeah. It's still like the same like content and everything. So that's why when people talk about CTV, again, like marketing thing, adTech, acronyms, we love it. But yeah, it's mostly like OTT in reality. But you can obviously like, for example, you can select like whether or not like you want to only watch like only target like TVs or mobiles. Like that's the kind of targeting capabilities that you have. But the usage like in the US, what we're seeing is that like it's absolutely still massive. Like the TV is still massive. I'll be honest. From what we're seeing, it's the non-CSP plus. Like it's usually like lower income households who will watch more TV than like higher income households. But yeah.
But that's interesting, isn't it? Because it seems that lower income household is still engaged with the
Yep.
central TV, and that I think that's an important thing to understand. Do you think you'll sort of see a bleed across from kind of traditional TV channels to make more use of them? Because I'm old enough to remember when this stuff started.
Yeah.
You know, where there was a thing in the UK called Open. It was a thing on Sky, and you press the red button, and then you would get this interactive. And it didn't work. Now, obviously, things have come a long way since, and the integration of the data elements into the TV itself is now a fact. So has that actually changed? Are we starting to see a blur between traditional and modern?
So in Europe, unfortunately, we are a bit late on that, but the trend is going very, very fast. So one of the things that TV manufacturers have understood is that like nobody cares anymore about like the curved 3D, 4D TV or anything like that. So that's not the selling point anymore. So now what they understand is that users want like a device just like an iPhone, and they're kind of trying to transform the TV into like the smart TV, like smartphone experience, and have like the best like app ecosystem and everything. And they make a lot of money by just placing, like having partnerships and like making sure that Pluto or Xumo or whatever is integrated directly in your TV when you buy it. And so they really push you to actually use that. And all the like big like OTT apps and broadcasters, so you have like the traditional ones, so like Paramount is like moving massively into connected TV with Paramount Plus. NBC is doing the same with Peacock, and they're just like pushing for that because they're making so much money out of it. So like it's absolutely like it's going very, very fast. And you have kind of the newcomers who are mostly owned by also like the big broadcasters. So for example, like Pluto TV, Fubo TV, like they're absolutely huge. For now, they are kind of shy on the European market, but they are coming, and they are coming big, big time. And I think like a lot of the broadcasters in Europe are going to have a very hard time because Pluto TV, Fubo, etc., are loaded of cash, and to just like push for that usage. So it's like it's not like a small wave; it's like a full-blown tsunami coming on that, and probably like in like five years, we'll not press. Basically, what they're trying to change is stop pressing like 1 or 2 or 6 or whatever. Press the OK button and open up the app.
Yeah, no, completely. And as someone who, yes, I did buy the Philips Hue TV. Yes, it is connected. And yes, I am using that all the time.